Next on Eyewitness News at 6, legislative auditors name names today in the investigation of Eastcliff's renovation. See why they didn't speak very kindly of University President Ken Keller.
And see why Keller's management of the university system also received some harsh criticism.
And it's a dictatorship, actually. I want it to be more democratic, more decentralized, and more efficient.
Plus, see why a Minneapolis bar may have met its Captain Ahab.
Plus the drama of a critic's resignation and what he calls disgrace. We'll have all of these stories next on Eyewitness News at 6.
Live from Minnesota's news channel, KSTP Channel 5. Stan Turner, Ruth Spencer, Dave Dahl, and Mark Curtis bring you Eyewitness News at 6.
And good evening, everyone. Leading the local news this Wednesday, a report on overspending at the University of Minnesota names names and places blame.
And this is the harshest criticism yet of top officials at the university. It coincides with moves at the state capitol to strip power from the university president. And it also coincides with the resignation announcement of a top official at the university today. We have team coverage on all of these developments, and we begin now with Lou Harvin.
The legislative audit points much of the blame for cost overruns at Eastcliff on Ken Keller and his wife, Bonita Sendelier. According to the auditors, they have not been able to determine exactly how much remodeling the Kellers personally ordered on Eastcliff, but Auditor James Noble says he has been able to determine the Kellers were the cause.
We also believe that because President Keller and his wife were involved, the cost escalated. I've already mentioned that they directed that some of the work be done, but also I think it's inescapable that their involvement had a psychological dimension. President Keller is the boss.
The legislative auditor's report continues to place much of the blame on Keller's administrators David Lilly, University Vice President for Finance and Operations, and Vice President of Academic Affairs, Roger Benjamin. The report says they did not properly tell the Board of Regents about cost overruns at Eastcliff. They just spent the money without formally telling anyone. The Board of Regents will not come out of this smelling like a rose either. The legislative audit says the Regents should have made themselves more aware of all the renovation projects. Lou Harvin, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
This is Pat Milan. Even before the Eastcliff audit was released at noon, the University of Minnesota was taking heat this morning at the Capitol over in St. Paul. There could be big changes ahead for university administration if two bills that passed out of the Higher Education Committee survive. The most controversial is a proposal to remove Kenneth Keller as president of the Minneapolis and St. Paul campuses. Individual campus presidents would be appointed, with Keller left to serve only as president of the overall university system. The bill is being pushed by the chairman of the Higher Education Committee, who also happens to be a part-time employee of the university.
It's difficult. It's almost impossible to sit and be an administrator of one campus, the largest campus, and be fair to the entire system. It's a dictatorship, actually. I want it to be more democratic, more decentralized, and more efficient.
Another bill will give the Board of Regents their own administrative staff that cannot be controlled by President Kenneth Keller.
I was amazed to find out that the Board of Regents have no staff on their own that are independent of President Keller and the administration.
Representative Howard Orenstein's bill was unanimously approved in committee. Regent David Rose says it's a nice try, but it won't be needed.
I think that when we take action, we'll have a recommendation tomorrow. I'm sure we'll be able to act on it on Friday, and there'll be no need for any of the legislation.
The Eastcliff episode has become something akin to a hurricane sweeping over the university. The initial winds were strong. The eye of the storm is now passing, and the winds appear to be picking up again. And like a hurricane, it may be this second batch of high winds that caused the real damage. Pat Milan, Channel 5 Eyewitness News at Eastcliff.
One of the people most frequently mentioned in all of this spending controversy is now retiring. David Lilly, Vice President for Finance, will retire at the end of June. He says that his recent hospitalization convinced him to retire. Lilly is 70 years old. In a prepared release, University of Minnesota President Ken Keller referred to the recent controversy, saying, "David has shared the spotlight with me and several others during this most recent difficult period. He has acknowledged mistakes of both omission and commission, like the gentleman he is." David Lilly previously headed the Toro Company, and he was a governor of the Federal Reserve Board in Washington.
Anyone with a Northwest Airlines ticket is probably wondering what's going to happen with the standoff between flight attendants and the company. The flight attendants threatened to strike because they couldn't get the contract they wanted. Well, today, Northwest decided to impose its own contract on the attendants. And Dave Andrews reports it would go into effect on April 1st.
Northwest Chief Negotiator Terry Erskine announced this afternoon the airline cannot wait any longer to implement the contract it has been trying to convince the Flight Attendants Union to accept.
The time has now come for us to exercise our right to homogenize our flight attendant workforce under equal rates of pay, benefits, and working conditions.
The airline will impose essentially the same offer that has been on the table for more than a week, and only one issue in that offer separates the two sides. Northwest will impose an 8-step transition pay scale, a lower so-called B scale for flight attendants hired since May of 1984. The union is demanding that the B scale be eliminated in 5 years. Northwest says the 8-year B scale is vital in keeping it competitive in the airline industry.
Keep in mind that when I say that we want to be competitive in the long term, we didn't pull this 8-year B scale out of a hat. We were influenced by what's going on in other airlines. And the airline that has the most recent flight attendant agreement off the presses, overwhelmingly ratified by their flight attendant group, is American Airlines, an airline which a lot of our flight attendants say we should emulate. Well, we're doing that.
Following the airline's announcement this afternoon, a spokesperson for the Flight Attendants Union was non-committal about what the airline's decision will mean to the labor dispute.
We have to take a look at it and see exactly what they are offering us, let our attorneys look at it and go over it, and then we'll plan our next move.
The Flight Attendants Union has indicated that this evening they will give a response to the airline's decision today. It is unclear now whether or not today's developments have made a threat of a walkout by the flight attendants any more of a possibility. At Northwest headquarters in Eagan, I'm Dave Andrews, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
And we, of course, will be following this story for you tonight at 10 on the update to bring you any developments on it. A strike in Grand Rapids and surrounding Itasca County is making life pretty difficult for a lot of people. The workers who plow the roads are out, as are the union workers who work at the county landfill. Yesterday, there weren't enough non-union people to plow the roads, so schools had to send kids home early when heavy snow started to fall there. And now, the county's landfill is in trouble with the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. Agency workers filed a complaint because no one is burying the garbage. The strike has gone on for 9 days now. A mediation session has ended with no new talks being scheduled. A Minneapolis bar that's received a lot of attention lately may have taken a fatal blow today, the harpooning of Moby Dick's. Next.
And a local theater critic says he is resigning in disgrace. We'll see why later on Eyewitness News at 6.
$9, but that's how much we care.
The bar Minneapolis police are called to more often than any other will likely be closing down for a month. The City Council License Committee today recommended a 1-month suspension of Moby Dick's license. The suspension follows a raid at the bar in December in which 9 people, including some bar employees, were arrested on drug charges. City officials expect Moby Dick's to be permanently closed in June when all the buildings on the block are torn down to make way for a parking lot. A nearby bar owner says customers often ask him if he expects the clientele from Moby Dick's to move to surrounding bars, but Steve Schussler says he's not worried.
That could be a big part of the mistake. The Loon Cafe, Cheers, Jose's, the Pacific Club. You've got beautiful restaurants in the neighborhood. I don't think any of them are going to allow those kind of people in them.
Now, the full council and the mayor must still approve the license suspension at Moby Dick's. Ruth?
A St. Paul woman now faces charges of murder and manslaughter in connection with the death of her 2-year-old son. Yesterday, we told you that Karen Olson was still being held by police. She was arrested soon after little David Olson died of a head injury last week. Today, she was indicted for second-degree murder and also first-degree manslaughter. When the little boy died, Olson told police the child had fallen down a flight of stairs at home. But the medical examiner has since ruled that the child was abused, and the prosecutors allege Olson caused her son's death death during an assault. Should Ramsey County Judge Alberto Miera be suspended with pay while the Supreme Court decides whether to discipline him? Today, the High Court justices heard arguments from attorneys for Miera and also for the state, and they have now taken the matter under advisement. This all stems from a jury ruling last year in favor of a court reporter who said that Miera kissed him and made advances towards him. The Board of Judicial Standards recommends that Miera be removed from the bench because of it, but that decision won't be made by the Supreme Court now until May.
This morning's editions of the St. Paul Pioneer Press-Dispatch contained an unusual column by the paper's drama critic. Channel 5's Catherine Smith reports tonight. The column was an apology, an explanation, and a resignation.
The article was just as big a shock to officials with the St. Paul Pioneer Press-Dispatch as it was to many readers. After 9.5 years as drama critic, David Hawley admitted a recent review published with his byline was plagiarized. Hawley, who was unavailable for comment, characterized his actions, saying, quote, "It was arrogant, stupid, and self-destructive." Pioneer Press-Dispatch editor Deborah Howell says despite the fact that plagiarism is a serious offense for any reporter, that David Hawley will stay on here at the paper in a new capacity. But for members of the Twin Cities theater community, news of Hawley's column spread like a bombshell.
I'd say the uniform reaction is just open-mouthed shock. You're kidding.
Steve Antonucci is executive director at Theater in the Round. Hawley's review of their production of a play entitled Good is at the center of this story. Hawley says his article plagiarized material from a New York Times review. People who know Hawley's work say they hope it wasn't intentional.
This does not sound to me, at least from the way it's written here, that it was a conscious, word-for-word plagiarism. It sounds more like he had done the research on the play, looked at this, looked at that, and it sort of just came through when he was writing on his own because his perceptions were so similar to the New York Times.
The final irony has less to do with the review itself and more to do with the play Hawley was reviewing.
Good was about a well-intentioned man who sort of slips into doing wrong. And, yeah, the irony is not lost.
Catherine Smith, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
Never have so many.
For the food, stay for the pie.
If you live in Minneapolis, you will be recycling more of your trash under a proposal the City Council is going to review. The Council asked for a study on ways to increase recycling, and here is one way. Eventually, all of you would get a special container to put your cans and your bottles and other recyclables into. The study also recommends picking up garbage and your recyclable materials on the same day. The idea is to reduce the amount of waste that we end up burying in landfills. Now, Mr. Bill, the idea with the weather is to have as many days as we can, like today.
Well, I saw folks out, guys and gals on the tennis courts with the tennis whites.
Were you
on
out
the
there?
shorts.
You
no,
play tennis?
I was taking a walk.
You were
I was pretty envious, though, I'll tell you. But you're here, Bill Ranby.
Yes.
Dave's still on vacation, but he picked a good week. But you're going to tell us a little bit about snow.
It's a possibility. Maybe towards this weekend. You know, this is the changeable month. And you've been telling us all along that we do average. Stan says we average 11 inches of snow for this month, and we do. It could happen yet, but certainly not this afternoon. Check out these afternoon high temperatures that day, maybe some leftover flurries for Sunday, but the average date of the last big storm would be March 14th, so we're getting close. We still can get one. Stan, you've been mentioning it all along.
Let me congratulate you, please. We average 11 inches of snow in March, folks, but we're not going to get any. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah.
Good job. Still ahead in sports. Lou Nanny is changing jobs, but not his place of employment.
Yeah, and then live from Florida, our own Mark Curtis looks into this question. Can the Twins repeat as champs in '88? Of course they can. That is all coming up next on Eyewitness News at 6.
My mother-in-law calls me Lucille.
Waste my own.
Did you hear that question I ask everyone on the tees? Can they wait? Of course they can. The A's did it 3 times in a row. Why can't the Twins do it at least 2 times?
She's a regular baseball historian. Name the last team to repeat.
I don't know. The
A's? 10
A's?
years ago, wasn't it?
I don't know.
10 years ago, the Yankees. We
Oh,
can
the
do
Yankees.
it again. I know they can do it. During spring training, baseball teams don't mind going to battle without all their weapons. In fact, small discs have made a big difference in the success of that school. It'll be interesting. And Ruth, the Eastern Division leading Strikers, play tonight in Dallas, and the Norris Division trailing North Stars, they're at home tonight to Buffalo.
Okay.
Got all that?
Yes, sir.
We have it all. Thank you,
See you
Mark, very
tonight.
much. Well, still ahead here, some strange thievery you may not believe.
#1 music station under the sun is 95 and sunny all day long.
Two strange theft cases in southern Minnesota to tell you about tonight. In Owatonna, someone is stealing power lines right off the poles. And not just any power lines either. Someone is stealing the copper core wires that are worth some money to scrap dealers. They've stolen something like 2 miles of wires so far. Power company officials say they think the thieves are pros because they know where to find that kind of wire, and they also know how to keep themselves from getting electrocuted. And in Austin, Minnesota, police have broken up a ring of bike thieves, except these aren't pros. These suspects are 6 boys aged 12 to 16. They allegedly stole up to 50 bikes, stripped the usable parts, and then resold them.
Well, be sure to join us tonight for the update. We'll tell you about a big gathering of mayors in the Twin Cities and what they're saying about a bid for the Summer Olympic Games in 1996. Will they support it?
I'm Steve Hartman with the Political Exclusive. Tonight at 10, I'll talk with George Bush, Richard Gephardt, and Paul Simon. But don't get too excited. It's not what you think.
Okay, thank you, Steve. What do you think, sir? The weather?
I think we should have a big barbecue outside.
Sounds great.
Yeah. Nice evening.
Yeah.
Clear skies, very nice. Burgers and dogs. Yeah, we'll do it upright. Maybe some brats. We'll throw them on the fire. Very pleasant this evening. Temperatures will be mild, 31 to 36 for overnight winds, light south winds. We'll tell you at 10 o'clock about that storm that may threaten our weekend.
Yeah, roll out the barbecue and then the snow comes down on Saturday, right? Huh?
Stan, you've got to stop being so pessimistic.
I'm positive.
We need your help to put on the news stories that you see here on Channel 5. Call us on the Eyewitness News tip line with your news. The number is 5TV News.
I'm very positive. Well, thank you for joining us this evening. We'll see you tonight at 10 o'clock. Please join us for the update.
Okay, we'll see you then.